Okay, so today we'll finish off this last lecture 10 Bash Scripts 3, and then I'll hand out the next one, which will take us to the end of the semester. I'm probably going to change how much the quizzes are worth. I'll reduce that because we haven't had enough of them to make them worth as much as I have them worth right now. I hope that's okay. I'll just modify things so that other stuff's worth more and the quizzes are worth less. Unless I come up with a way to have quizzes every day from now on. But you might like it better if I just do it the other way and reduce the quiz score, right? Okay. So today we're going to start this section on games, and we're just going to make a game. And the reason I chose this is because it sort of uses a lot of the technology that we've learned and uses it in a, I don't know, entertaining way. I'm not saying this is going to be the most fun game you ever played, okay? But it is more entertaining than just, more theoretical stuff. So let's start out by creating a file called games1, meaning we're going to modify it. We'll keep adding more technology as time goes on until we have a game that's kind of decent. So I'm editing the file. I'm going to, as usual, start out with the, no string under cursor. Oh, I have to go into insert mode first. Start with that, and so here's how we're going to do it. It's going to be a very naive game. In other words, you'd never make any money marketing a game like this. It's for educational purposes. And how we're going to do it is we're going to think of a game board as being a two-dimensional map with like X and Y coordinates. So if you can think about it as maybe like a piece of graph paper or something, and you can move to the right or in the X direction, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in the Y direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that kind of thing. And so we'll just keep track of the X and Y coordinates of the person and whoever's playing it, and then when they move in a certain direction, we'll just increase or decrease their X and Y coordinates to show where they are, and then we'll know exactly where they are. And then we can also place different things at various coordinates that they can run into. So it's going to be sort of an adventure game like that one that I showed you, the cave one that I told you everybody back in the day got addicted to when it first came out. It's going to be like that, like a text-based adventure game, but it's not going to be very sophisticated. So if you're writing a similar type of game with your group, don't worry. I'm pretty sure yours will be more entertaining than the one we do in class. But we'll teach you, or you'll see a few of the things that we've learned in context, which may help you come up with some ideas. So obviously we're going to need a position vector. We need basically the X and Y coordinates of the player. And so how we're going to do that is we're just going to introduce a variable called position, and we're going to set it equal to an array. And we might as well start the player at 0, 0. And so that means I've introduced an array called position. That means position square brackets with a 0 in, or is it index start with 0? I believe so. Position with a 0 in the middle will be this first guy, and position with square brackets and a 1 will be that second guy. But we're starting out at 0, 0, sort of the origin of coordinates, and that's, I guess, where I've chosen to have the player appear. Okay, next, I'm going to put, so this is going to be sort of an escape room type game where the object is to get out. And so where they get out we'll call the door, or the entrance to the cave, or whatever it is. So I'm going to call it a door, and I'm going to put it at an arbitrary position. And in the notes I said we'll put it at x equals 2 and y equals minus 2. And I put that right at the top, so if you change things around and you make the game bigger or whatever, you can always change where the person starts and where the door is. The player's not going to know this. Now, I want to, the way I'm going to have the player find the door is they're going to see a light coming from a certain direction, right? So if they're walking around and they move into a new spot, it will give them a message, and part of the message will be, you see a light coming from whatever, and that will kind of guide them of how to find the door. It's not going to be very complicated, but I'm going to be using that phrase a lot in the game. You see a light coming from blah, blah, blah. And so since I'm going to be using it a lot, I'm going to just make a variable, and I'm going to call the variable light. And the variable is going to, I'll start with a few spaces, and I'll say, I see a light, and I think I'm gonna say I see a light coming from. Yeah, I see a light from the. That's what I'll make that thing. And then after that will be like east, west, north, south kind of thing. But that same phrase will happen a lot. So if I make a variable equal to that, then I don't have to keep typing it all the time. Okay, so now let's give an introduction message to the person when they first start the game. So far this is just defined variables, which means the user hasn't seen anything yet. The first echo statement is what the user will see. And I start out with a bunch of dashes just to sort of separate the message from everything else. And I say, a couple of spaces here, you are lost in a cave. And let's make the number of dashes the same length as that so that it's sort of, or maybe a bit more, how about a couple more. You are lost in a cave. Okay. You can quit at any time. Oops. With quit. So I'll have a command called quit, and the user can use that to get out of the game anytime they want. Okay, and now I want another row of dashes underneath this, because the messages from the system to the user will be surrounded in dashes. So I'm just going to go up to this line and go YY, and then go down to this one and go P, and then I got another row of dashes underneath. All right, so there's the beginning of the game. And now the game itself is going to last until the guy gets out. So how I'll do that is I'll use a giant while loop. I could have used an until loop, because what I'm going to do with the while loop is I'm going to do while not, and then 2 brackets, position 0 equals door 0. While position 0, and basically I have position 0 equals door 0 and I put a 2 ampersands meaning and position 1 equals door 1. And then 2 brackets. And while that happens, I do the following. Now, this condition means you're at the door. So I put an exclamation point in front of it all, meaning I'm not at the door. So while I'm not at the door, I'm going to keep playing. And as soon as I get to the door, then that'll be the time to exit this while loop. And so let's end the while loop. The while loop always ends with a done. So I'm going to end the while loop, and then I'm going to have a message saying that you got out of the cave. So I'm going to go up and just yank y6 wide, yank 6 lines of these echo things and paste them underneath the done. So there's another message, but I'm going to say you escaped the cave. And I'll just leave it like that for now. You escaped the cave. Okay. So far, we have a game that would actually work right now. It wouldn't do anything spectacular, but it would work. And just hang there because I'm not at the position of the door. So what I need to do inside the while loop is tell the person where they are. So I'll go echo, you are at position, and then $. Actually, let's put brackets around it like this so that's sort of a coordinates. So I'll go, you are at position, and then the x coordinate is 0, comma, position 1 for the y coordinate, and then a closing bracket. And then ask echo, do you want to go north, south, east, or west? And then echo a new line, so there's some space. Okay, so now that I'll ask them whether they want to go north, south, east, or west. And why don't we try it now just to make sure what we have so far works. Yeah?
Are you intentionally spelling position differently for the variable you set in the beginning?
Wasn't it position? Oh, sorry.
And then also on the first echo under the while loop, just for echoing it.
Yeah, I know. I suck at spelling. Okay, good. Let's see if it works. Probably there's other errors that we'll find when I try to run it. So right quit, and now I'm going to have to make it executable with chmod plus x. Now it's executable, and I'll just run it. Wow. So it just keeps going, and it keeps echoing that thing. And you see why, right? Because let's take a look at it again. And by the way, when it says you are at position, there was an extra comma there. Oh, because I'm not supposed to have commas inside this array. The array is supposed to be space separated, not comma separated. So it was considering one of the commas as a part of one of the coordinates, one of the values. So I got rid of the commas inside these two variables. Now, do you see why it just keeps going? If you look at this while loop, I started out at position 0, 0, which is not the position of the door, and therefore it's just going to keep doing that over and over and over and over, and every time it does, it's just going to echo that same message over and over and over. Okay, so it did sort of work, though. Everything that we wanted it to do is kind of working. So what we want to do now, though, is after we've asked the person, do they want to go north, south, east, or west, we want to read what they say. So I'll go read command, and the command will be whatever the user wants to do. In this case, it's very simple. They're just going to put in, either north, south, east, or west, or quit. Okay, so after we've read the command, now I want to check what the command is. And how I'm going to check what the command is I'm going to use a case statement. Since there's 5 different things it can be, I'll use a case statement with 5 different cases. So I'll go case, and say command in, and the way the case statement works is you case and then some variable in, and then you put all the cases, and it tests against each one. And so the first one I'm going to check for is quit. And the way I'm going to do it is Q or capital Q with an or, and then Q or capital Q with a UIT after it. So that the user can either do a lowercase q, an uppercase q, or the whole word quit in lowercase or uppercase. Either any of those things, those four options will work for quit. And then after you do that, you put a right bracket. That tells you that's the regular expression that it's going to compare command with. If that does match, then it's going to do something. And here's what it's going to do. In this case, it's going to echo thank you for playing. Because this is, if they quit, that's it. And then I'm going to echo a new line, and then I'm going to just exit. And you remember how case statements end, they end with 2 semicolons to end that choice of the case. It starts with the regular expression and it ends with the semicolons, and inside is the stuff it does if it matches that. Unless you want to match more cases. So what I'm going to do now, though, just for grins, is end the case statement with ESAC. Remember, that's case spelt backwards. And there. So there's really only one thing they can do, which is quit. But I'm going to test it now just to make sure that this part works. Okay. So I go games. You are lost in a cave. You can quit at any time with quit. You are at position 0, 0. Do you want to go north, south, east, or west? And I'm just going to go quit. Thank you for playing. So it did work so far exactly the way it's supposed to. And you notice how we're doing this. As we go along and add new things, we play it and test it to make sure that what we added still works. So I know that if it stops working, it's going to be something that I added later. Oops, clear games, no thanks. Vim games. Okay, now let's add more options to what the person can do. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to yank 5 lines, Y5, Y, and paste them under here, and then just change the stuff in there. So I'm going to change this first one to north, like so. And if the said player types north in any of those 4 ways, it's going to just say, you go north. All right, and now after it says you go north, I want it to increase their position. So I'm going to do that by 2 brackets. And I'm going to say position, if I can spell it right this time, 1 equals position 1 plus 1. And then 2 closing brackets. And I'm going to get rid of the exit. So there. Now, do you see why I did it that way? Which I don't need to have a space there, but the reason I did it that way is because the first position 1 is the y coordinate. If I go north, that means I'm increasing the value of the y coordinate, just the way like any 2-dimensional coordinate system works. So let's go ahead and try that and see if the person can go north and if it changes what position it says there that he's at. So you're lost in the cave. You are at position 0, 0. Do you want to go north, south, east, and west? I'm just going to put a lowercase n. You go north. You are at position 0, 1. Let's go north again. You are at position 0, 2. So do you see how it did do what we wanted it to do? So now I'm going to go Q for quit. And thank you for playing. Okay, so it still works. All right, now let's yank 5 lines again, or 4 lines, Y4, Y, paste, and let's do south. S, R capital S, change word OUTH, change word south. And then I'm just going to go, actually let's do this in a different way just so that it reminds you how to do it in a different way. There. In this case, I just went position 1 minus equals 1. And remember, that's short for position 1 equals position 1 minus 1. I'm going to do these cases in 4 different ways so you can see 4 different ways that variables can be incremented and decremented. Okay, and let's just go ahead then and yank 4 again, and paste, and do east and west. RE, 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 east. And east is to the right, and therefore I want position 0, which is the x-coordinate, to be incremented. And the way I'm going to do that is another way even. Nah, you know what? I'm not. You guys know how to do that stuff. Let's just go position 0 plus plus. Because position 0 plus plus is the same as adding 1 to position 0. And that's the x-coordinate. Okay, and then I'm going to yank 4 lines again, y4, y, and paste them, and then do west. And in that, if I'm going west, position 0 is minus minus because it decreases it. Okay, awesome. And then last but not least, I need a default in case the user types something else that I'm not accounting for. And remember how you do that. You use an asterisk and a right bracket. That means anything else. If it doesn't match the above, it matches this guy. And this one I'm just going to say echo I don't understand. And why don't we put I don't understand command, just so that the user is told what he typed in that I didn't understand. There. Now this game will work. It now is actually complete in a sense, in that now you can play it and win. However, I'm going to add more things to give the user some hints as to where the door might be so they don't just wander around aimlessly. But for now, let's run it like it is. We know where the door is. We put it at the very top. The door is at 2 minus 2. So why don't we, that means if I go east 2 spots and I go south 2 spots, that's where the door is. So why don't we just do that and see if we can get out if everything still works. Okay, so games. You're lost in a cave, you can quit with quit. So I'm going to go east, you go east. And let me type something like blah just to make sure that my default thing works properly. I go blah, it says I don't understand blah. You are at position 1, 0. Do you want to go north, south, east, or west? Let's go east again. Now I'm at 2, 0. Now I'll go south, and now I should go south one more time, and that should put me at the door. Now I'm at the door. So how come I'm not out? Right? So I'm going to quit and go, okay, something's wrong here. I'm not out of the cave, yet I should be. Can we figure out what it is that's wrong with this? In other words, the condition that I'm equal to the exit of the cave isn't being satisfied. Yeah.
Does it matter that you're using .eq and then equal equal on the other?
Could be. Let's go over here and change this equal equals to -eq. And let's try it again. east, east, south, south. You escaped the cave. Okay, so he figured it out. It was because I was using two equal signs to when I was comparing numbers. And remember, we want to use dash EQ for that. Good. So there we are. What a fun game, right? Problem is, if you've never played this before and you don't know where the door is, there's no limits to the size of this. You could go up to like 10,000 steps east and 50,000 steps north. Basically, if I put the door in a weird spot somewhere, it's almost impossible that you're going to find it by random accident. So we need to do something in there to make it a little more fun, where the user gets some kind of hint as to where the door is. So the way we're going to do that is, if the user is above where the door is, it will say you see a light from the south. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So that there's a light that they can follow to try and find the door. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that in. And what we do there is, first we read the command and we tell where it's going to go. I don't understand or whatever. But now, after they've done the movement, I now want to start giving them some hints. So I've read their command and I've told them which direction they go. And now I would like to add in an if statement. And so I'll go if, two brackets, and I'm going to use this thing now, if two brackets, position zero equals door 0. And I wonder if I should do it this way. Well, let's do it this way anyway. And here, hold on. YYP capital J. I don't like typing, so, and position 1 is not equal to door 1. Oops. And then two brackets to end that, and then a semicolon. So if that is true, then what do I want to do? Then I'll have another if statement. Of course, there's a million ways to do this stuff. You wouldn't have to use my method, but let me just do it, and then we'll talk about it. And if the y position is less than the y position of the door, then echo $light south. FI oh no, just wait. If the $light north, sorry. And then I'll go else. And let's just yank this, YYP, and then I'll go light south. And then close the if statement. And then close this if statement also. Okay, let's just analyze this, what I've got here. Let me maybe make it one thing smaller a little bit so we can see. So I have a nested if statement. First, it checks between this if and that FI. It checks if your x coordinate is equal to the x coordinate of the door, and the y coordinate is not equal to the y coordinate of the door. What that means is I'm at the right x coordinate of the door, but I'm either above it or below it. So if that's true, then I go into another if and I say, well, is my position less than that, my y position less than the door, meaning am I below the door? And if that's true, I say there's a light. Remember, this variable light just says there is a light from the. So this says there is a light from the north, meaning I'm below the door. Otherwise, if this isn't true, it says there's a light from the south, because that would mean that my y-coordinate is above the y-coordinate of the door. So this here takes care of my x-coordinate's correct, but my y-coordinate isn't. Now I'm just going to yank all that, and I'm going to yank all that just by going up here and going V, and copying all that and go Y for yank. And I'm going to go all down to here and go P for paste. And so now I've got the exact same thing pasted again, but I'm going to make this where it checks my x-coordinate. In other words, my y-coordinate is correct, but my x-coordinate isn't. And so I'll just use the same thing, except I'll say if position 1, in other words, the y-coordinate, is the correct y-coordinate for the door, and position 0, the x-coordinate, is not the correct x-coordinate for the door, then am I on the left of the door or on the right? And if I'm on the left of the door, that would mean that my position 0 is less than the position 0 of the door. And in that case, I'll say I see a light from the west. Otherwise, I'll see a light from the, oh no, is it, am I backwards? I think it's from the east. If I'm on this side of the door, then the light will come from the east. So if I'm on the greater than the door, then the light will come from the west, right? Okay, good. Now that should give the user enough hints to be able to find the door, right? So now the game is at least slightly more interesting, and then I'm not going to wander aimlessly. I can wander around, but once in a while I'll see a light, and that'll kind of point me which way to go. Let's just see if it works or if I've screwed something up. All right, you're lost in a cave. You can quit any time with quit. You're at position 0, 0. Do you want to go north, south, east, or west? Well, let's go north. You go north. You're at position 0, 1. Do you want to go north, south, east, or west? Well, let's go north again. You're at position 0, 2. Okay, this isn't getting me anywhere. Let's go east. I'm position 1, 2. Go east. I'm still just wandering around. Uh-oh, something different happened. As soon as I went east again, it says, I see a light from the south. So now I'm like, oh, well, I better go south then. South, and I still see a light from the south. Go south, I still see a light from the south. Go south again, and I keep seeing a light from the south until, boom, I finally hit the door, and now I escape the cave. Not a heck of a lot of fun, but at least it's more fun than wandering around aimlessly in the dark until you finally find the coordinate 2 minus 2. Okay? Actually, it would be a kind of an interesting mathematical exercise to find out what is the best average number of moves you can make to find this door using the information that's provided. That's something mathematicians love to play around with. I mean, what would be my optimal strategy to get out as quickly as possible? Another thing you could add to this game, I don't know if I do in the future, I can't remember, but you could add something like carbon monoxide levels are at whatever, or 50% of toxic, and then at every move you make 55% of toxic. So basically you have a certain amount of moves before you pass out unconscious from carbon monoxide. Something like that, just to make it a little more crucial that you find the exit quickly. You could also have things like treasures that you find. Well, let's continue on. So far now, we have a working game. I'm going to move that to the desktop. And I'm going to change directories to the desktop. There. So Games 1 is a working game. It's not the most fun game you've ever played, but it works. And by the way, I purposely did certain things differently than we've done them in class before, just to show you different methods that still work. Some of these conditions, you could have done inside the condition, you could have done it slightly differently and it would still work. There's no one way to do everything. purposes. All right. Let's add to the game. And how we're going to add to it, we're going to modify it to use something we learned last day, which is functions, to make it better. So I'm going to leave this one as it is because it works. And I'm going to copy games 1 to games 2 and then play around with games 2 so I can always go back to a working version if I want to. So I just made a copy of games 1 and now I'm going to edit the copy called games 2. And it's exactly the same as what we have now, except let's add a couple of more interesting things to it. I have a door. I'm going to leave the door where it is at the moment, but I'm going to go YYP, change word treasure, and I'm going to put -1, comma 2. So -1, 2 is where the treasure is going to be located, just to make it more interesting so that there's some treasure. And then I'm going to have another array called inventory, which I'm just going to start out with nothing in it. So I just defined an array called inventory, which is empty. And I hope you can see what I'm going to do with that is if I ever find a treasure, it's going to go into my inventory. Okay, there. So I've added inventory and treasure. Now, next. Don't be intimidated by how long the stuff looks inside the book, because most of it's already been typed in the first version. We're just going to add things to it. And so, now the first thing we're going to put is, before we even do this "you're lost in a cave" stuff, I'm going to add a function. So I put a lowercase o to open a new line underneath there. And let's add a function, and the function is going to be called treasure. And notice I'm using the same name as for my function, which I probably shouldn't do. Is that how you spell treasure anyway? Interesting. Anyway, we'll call it treasure for now, but now I go if. So inside my function, I'm going to do an if. And I'm going to go if $1 is equal to $treasure 0 and $2 is equal to treasure 1, then echo, you take the treasure. And then right under, after saying you take the treasure, I'm going to go inventory plus equals treasure. And then I'm going to go treasure equals empty. Else I don't see anything here to take. And then fi again. And then that's it for my function. So do we see how this function works? Obviously, when I call the function, I'm going to have to call it with two arguments to it. And the two arguments will be your x and your y position. And so the way I'd want to use this is if the person playing the game says something like take. So I'll maybe add something into the possible commands that they have. And what I'll add is like take. So when they go into a place and they see something there, they can type take, and then it'll execute this function. And that function will first check to see if there's something there to take. And if there is, they'll say it'll take the treasure, and it will add the treasure to the inventory, and then it'll take away the treasure because it's been taken already. And then if there isn't anything sitting there, it'll just say, I don't see anything here to take. Make sense? So how do we implement that? We just put that in a function. And the reason I put it in a function is because you'll want to do this multiple times. Basically, any coordinates you're at, the person could check to see if there's treasure or whatever. And so I don't want to keep typing all this every time to see if there is treasure. I just put it in a function. Okay. So how are we going to implement that? Well, now here's the start of our game. You're lost in a cave. And now, I'll tell you what. Instead of using while not, why don't I just do this? Until. While not is the same thing as until. So until I reach those coordinates, I keep going, rather than while I'm not at those coordinates, I keep going. It's the same thing, but I just wanted to show you another way of doing it. So I keep going down, and I want to now add something to the commands. I have quit, north, south, east, and west. I also want to put a take in there. So I'm going to go up to this line right there, and I'm going to yank 4, so Y4Y, and then paste them right under there. And then I'm going to change this to take. And if the person does type take, I'm going to execute, I'm not going to do any of this stuff, I'm going to execute my treasure function. So I'm going to go treasure, and the two arguments I'm going to give to the treasure function are going to be position 0 and position 1. Like that. Okay. So now that I do that, I'm out of the. I've added the take, so now they have the ability to take when they're in there. Let's just continue. Keep this if statement there because that just tells them if there's a light anywhere. But before I'm finished my while loop, open a new line. I now want to add more stuff. So what do I want to add? I want to add treasure. So if position 0 is equal to the position, the treasure one. Oh, did something wrong here. Is equal to treasure 0. And position 1 equals treasure 1. Then what do? I echo, there is a treasure chest here. And then that's it for my if statement. There. So all that does is now if I'm at the position where the treasure is, it'll tell me there's a treasure chest here, and then it's up to me to take it. Okay. And also, instead of just saying you escaped the cave, let's add a statement under here that if they're carrying the treasure. So you escaped the cave, but now I'm going to go if $, number sign inventory ampersand is not equal to 0. Then echo, and you I should put some spaces there. And you are carrying $ inventory ampersand. And the reason I'm using this ampersand is because they may collect a bunch of stuff, and this will be the entire thing that gets printed out. And then FI. Oops, forgot my close quotations. There we are. And now let's stick an exit at the bottom so that it doesn't just fall off a cliff at the end. It actually just calls the function exit. Okay, good. And there we are. That's it for rendition number 2. And let's give it a try and see if we can find that treasure. Am I almost done here now? Or no? No. I just see a whole group of people came walking in back there. All right, you ready? Let's play it. Games 2. You are lost in a cave. You can quit at any time with quit. You're at position 0, 0. Do you want to go north, south, east, or west? By the way, if you want it to be really good, what you should do is in this introductory message, you should say not just how to quit. You should say, here are the things you can do. You can go move north, south, east, west, take, or quit, so that they know right away what the commands they're able to do. They don't have to just figure it out. So I'm at that position. Does anybody remember where that treasure was? Because that's the part I want to test. I can't remember where I put it.
-1, 2.
Okay, so I'm going to go west. Now I'm at -1, and you said at -1, comma 2. So I'm going to go north, north. So as soon as I went north, it now says, you go north, there is a treasure chest here. You are at position -1, 2. Do you want to go north, south, east, or west? Well, actually, I want to go take. So I'm going to say take. You take the treasure. You are at position -1, 2. Okay, well, it says I took the treasure. Let's escape now and see if at the end it tells me that I have the treasure in my inventory when I get out. So now I want to go to the exit. So I'm just going to go east and keep going east until I see some light. I see a light from the south, so now I'm going to go south. There, I escaped. So as you go south, you escape the cave, and you are carrying treasure, curly brace. I don't want it to say I'm carrying treasure, curly brace. I want it to just say I'm carrying treasure. So let's figure out what in the world is causing that spurious curly brace. And that's at the very end, so I'm just going to type capital G to get down to the bottom. Oh, there's the spurious curly brace. There's an extra one there. So I'll get rid of the extra one, and now that won't show up. It'll just say I'm carrying treasure. What?
Need treasure? Or a treasure?
I'm just carrying treasure. Okay, awesome. So there, now we have a game that's slightly better than rendition 1 in the sense that you don't just got to find the exit. You can also find some treasure along the way, and it keeps track of it and tells you how much you have at the end. Okay, now there is a version 3 of this. And in the version 3, we added 3 more commands. Basically, I would like to be able to check if I have treasure without having to finish the game and get out of the cave before it tells me that I'm carrying treasure. I'd like to have a command where I can go inventory or something, and it'll say you're carrying blah, blah, blah. Right? I'd also like a command help. And the help command will be one that will list all the things I can type. You know, so if I forget what commands I have available, I can always type help, and it'll tell me you can go. The commands available are the following. And I might also want a command called position, where if I type position, it'll tell me what my coordinates are, even though it does tell me that all the time. You may want something like that. So how in the world do I add those sort of things in? Well, the first thing I do is I copy games 2 to games 3 so I don't screw up an already amazing game that I'm half addicted to. It's so fun. Instead, I'm going to modify it and make it even more addicting. Okay. And how I'm going to modify it is I'm going to add another function in here. So I'll just go right up here and I'll just put another function in. And that function is going to be help. And in this case, I'm going to start it with an underscore, just because a lot of times people use an underscore in front of function names to distinguish them as functions. And in fact, let's put an underscore in front of the function called treasure as well, just to distinguish it. And so that means when I use treasure, I have to put an underscore in front of it again. So the take, where do I actually use? Let me search treasure. Treasure. Not treasure. Boom, underscore. 1G to go back to the top. Okay, so now let's do our help. And it's a good idea to have something distinguishing functions from normal variables. A lot of times people put an underscore in front, and that just means that you're never going to mistakenly call something the same thing that you already called a function, because you're not going to start them with underscores. You can do whatever you want, though. You can see the idea, though. Okay, so help. What am I going to do with help? Help is just going to be echoing a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to echo the available, I wish I could spell, available commands are echo. And I'm going to say H, this menu. And then I'm going to go YYP, and I'm going to go N, and change it to move north. And then I'm going to go YYPPP, S, south, east, west, EW. So this menu, move north, move south, move east, move west. I also can take. So let's go YYP. T is going to be take. And then YYP. I is going to be inventory. And then YYP. Q is going to be quit. Oh, I also need position. So let's go YYP. P means position. And then I'm going to echo a new line, and then that's it for my function help. So all the help does is if a person presses H, it just prints out all the possible things you're allowed to do. Next, let's use these. So we're going to go down to our, this stuff stays the same, treasure stays the same, everything stays the same, all the way down to our case statement where we've got to add the new commands in there. So I've already got quit, north, south, east, and west, and take. Now I'm going to just yank 3 lines from the take and paste them and put an I there. Inventory. So what are we going to do for inventory? I'm just going to say if. And we'll first check to see if there is any inventory. So how I do that is if $, curly brace, number sign inventory, ampersand, that means the number of elements in the array inventory. If it's not equal to 0, that means I've got some inventory. So if the number of elements are not equal to 0, then I'm going to say echo you are carrying $, curly brace, inventory, ampersand. So it just prints out the entire array of inventory. And then else, echo, you aren't carrying anything. And then the end of the if statement. So there we are. The inventory command will just print out whatever your inventory is, and if it's empty, it'll just say you're not carrying anything. So there's the inventory command, and now I want to put a position command in there. So I'm actually just going to yank this guy right here. YY, go down here and go P, and let's yank the end. YY, P. Oh, D2D. That has to be above my default. And P, capital P, little p, capital P, position. So if the person types position in any of those 4 possible ways, what is it going to do? It's going to say echo your current position is position ampersand. That'll print out the whole array. And that's it for the position one. And then last but not least, I need a one that's a help. So I'm going to go Y3Y, paste, H, capital H, lower h, capital H, help. And if the person presses help, I'm just going to go underscore help, because underscore help is the function that prints out the help menu. Okay. And that does it. Now I've added a few more commands and a help menu. Okay. Let's play. Games 3. You're lost in a cave. You can quit any time with quit. You're at position 0, 0. Do you want to go north, south, east, or west? What I should actually do, instead of saying you can quit any time with quit, let's change that so it just says press H for help. So I'm going to just quit right now with quit, and I'm going to look at games 3, and I'm going to change that first introductory message right here, lost in a cave, you can quit anytime with quit. I'm just going to say press H for help, like that. Now games 3. You're lost in the cave, press H for help. H. The available commands are this menu, move north, move south, blah, 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 blah. So let's try and take something. T for take. I don't see anything here to take. Okay, well, let's move. Where was that treasure again? Let's go inventory. You aren't carrying anything. Let's go position. Your current position is 0, 0. Okay, so that all works. Where was the treasure again?
-1, 2.
So west and then north, north. Yeah, there is a treasure test here. Okay, let's go take. You take the treasure. Now let's go inventory for I. You are carrying treasure. So that seems to all work. You might want to add a drop command so I can drop the treasure. Or maybe the game could be you're a dragon and there's a big pile of treasure hoard at one coordinate that you started, like at the origin, and you have to go around and pick up treasure, bring it back to the origin, and dump it onto the hoard. And you'd do that by adding another inventory array, except it'd be called hoard, and it would be how much treasure is in your hoard. And so you'd run around grabbing treasure, going back to the origin and dumping it on your pile of treasure, and frying any hobbits you might see along the way. There's lots of things you can do depending on how much effort you want to put into it. Help, what else can I do? Inventory position, let's see what position says. I'm at -1, 2, that works. Let's go to the exit then. So I'm going to go south, 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 south. I see a light coming from the east. East, east, east. You escaped the cave. You are carrying treasure. Okay, so it works great, and in fact, it's hard for me not to keep playing because I'm really feeling that, that addicted aspect of it. In fact, where's my wallet? I want to start sending money to get free treasure and bonus points and stuff. Who can I send it to? Sorry. You see how easy it is to make games like this, and in fact, to make ones that have visual aspects to them is not much harder. The hard part is this underlying algorithms and gears and stuff. The visual stuff, somebody spent a lot of time drawing pictures, and you just grab them and paste them into your program. And there's IDs that allow you to do that. So really, you can see that making these video games, in other words, the ones you're all addicted to, is not very difficult to do. And it's very easy to add pay stuff to it. So you got to buy weapons, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And one of the goals, in fact, there's scientific papers you can get off the internet at Internet Scientific Archives like HepTH, which are written about psychology of gamers. And the entire point of the paper is how to create what's called whales. Do you know? Have you ever heard the term whale? A whale is what they call an online gamer that spends all their money on it. And they've got papers saying you have to give them these little trinkets once in a while to keep them addicted. You've got to give them this and that, flashing lights, things that they psychologically have determined make people addicted. And keep doing it until they start spending money and spending money and spending money. And the entire goal is to make sure you stay up all night, every night, playing games and spending all your money and sleeping through class the next day. That's the goal. Pretty horrible, isn't it? But it makes those companies a lot of money. And you can see by what we did today, it ain't that hard to make these games. And being good at them doesn't mean you're good at anything. Just saying that. Anyway, enough philosophy. I think that's basically it for our games stuff. And in fact, that's it for lecture 10. Hopefully, what we did today gives you some ideas of technology and tools to help you with your own games, which you're busily working on with your partners. Like I said before, if your partner is a no-show, let us know immediately so that we can either get them to show, or at least we know they're not showing up, and so that they won't get credit for your game. If you have a partner that hasn't done anything in your game and hasn't even helped at all, we want to know, because they should not get any credit for it. So you will, and they'll get a 0, okay? Let us know. I'm going to hand out the final handout of the semester right now. You can look at it and get a head start if you like, but we're not going to start on this stuff. We're going next day on Tuesday. We're going to hand out some equipment that we're going to need, and then sort of reacquaint you with it, because the equipment you've seen before, Arduino Nanos, I think you've seen them before, and but it may have been a while. And we want to just reacquaint you with it. And then we're going to show you how to control that stuff with shell scripts.
So I'm going to send an announcement to check if you guys still have your Arduino Nano from last semester. So if you don't have, or if you're not in ENR 101, you can let me know. And then I'm going to bring like a kit that has the Arduino Nano, right?
I get a free Arduino.
So I'm going to send an announcement. If you need it, please reply to the announcement. Just so you know that how many I have free.
Oh, I suppose.
For the Arduino.
Did I give you guys handouts?
Yeah.
Oh, do you get a Nano? We'll get you guys a Nano.
We get to keep it.
You don't get to keep it. They don't get to keep these Nanos, do they? Really?
I feel like this class doesn't have a fee to cover them. But because for the students that were in ENR
Right.
101,
Okay.
they actually paid a fee.
The
to
reason
actually
why
win.
they get to keep theirs is there was a fee they paid in 101, and so they actually, in a sense, paid for their Nanos already. You guys will maybe have to lend them a Nano.
Yeah, so we're just gonna give you what you need for the class, and then you bring it back at the end of the semester.
All right, sound good? That's it then for today, folks. I hope you're busy making those games. I can't wait to play them. But make sure there's no money involved, because you know me, I'm addicted. I'll end up using my credit card. I'll give you guys all my cryptocurrency that I've got stored up.